Welcome to Fitch Painting and Repairs Garage. Today's project, we're going to give you an update on the 63 Triumph. Unfortunately, every time I seem to touch this thing, I go backwards. More and more problems. Vintage machine troubles, huh? Started out with, if you've been following along, we've changed the carburetors, took off them amels and got a set of Makunis. I've been having problems with the fiberglass tank that was originally on there. And we went back with this all metal tank, and first problem we had was the way that they have this installed. This bolt stripped out, so we're gonna have to tap that, rethread that, put a little bit larger size bolt in. You know, we'll have to paint and do this tank. It seems to be holding fuel, doesn't seem to be leaking. Should have stayed with this one all the way from the beginning. And then yesterday during kick start up, when we were kick starting the bike, when we had the tank off, we had noticed that according to the book down here on your point setup, the left side, which is the timing side, and this side is your drive side, the yellow and black wire here should go to the number 1 cylinder, and the black and white should go to the number 2 cylinder. Number 1 cylinder on the right side, number 2, as far as I understand. Well, I kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked, you know, thinking, you know, I switched the wires, thinking, oh, that something was wrong. You know, I got this one is the white and black wire. And it goes to this coil. And the trigger is the yellow. All right, but anyways. So we kicked the hell out of it for about an hour or so, and it wouldn't fire, wouldn't do nothing, just acting like the 67 did when we hooked up the electronics on it. So we went ahead and switched that wire back, and boom, she fired right up. Well, took it out for a test drive, just riding around the neighborhood, and I wasn't beating it, wasn't getting on it or nothing. And I come around the corner heading back to the house, and she spit the chain off. Snapped the master link, but that's not the problem. When she spit the chain off, she created a window right there. This big hole got blown out of the case. We'll go around the other side and show you a little bit better. But you see that hole right there? The chain came up, slapped the case, knocked that big ass hole right in the side of the case. Now, that doesn't contain oil. That's where your output sprocket on the transmission, where the chain goes around the front sprocket, that's where that housing lives. So there's no oil in there or anything like that. It's not pressure sealed or anything. It's open. You know, on the back side, it's all opened up. You know, the sprocket's in there, and that's where the chain rides. And so this is the chunk of metal it spit out. Now, it's not all of it. There's a small piece of it missing here on the front, about the size of my thumbnail. And then here's the master link. I found it. It snapped and bent. Lost the clip. Oh, but that was a lot of fun. And then also, we pushed the bike back, you know, just a couple, you know, about 100 yards down the road where it happened. So I pushed the bike back to the shop and trying to figure out what was going on. And went to hit the kicker, and the clutch was engaged. And I couldn't figure out why. I pulled the clutch handle, and all of a sudden it released. Well, the reason being is this little piece here. See how it's got that pinch piece on it? Well, one whole side of it's gone. Alright. Here is the kicker cover. It goes on. I gotta be careful so I don't lose my spring. And so that goes on like that, and you got this hole here, and the cable goes down into it,
and this thing lives down inside there, and the cable attaches in there, and it's attached to this little arm inside right there, and on the end of that arm it's threaded, and this little piece threads down on top of it, and it holds the cable, and you can see right there clearly how it busted out that side. So coincidental, probably. Potentially other problems, possibly. But I was able to manually shift it into the gears, and the sprocket goes into neutral and rotates. I was able to reach up in through that gap in there and spin the sprocket. So the transmission is not locked up as far as I can tell, because you engage it in gear, and when the Kickstarter was on, you push Kickstarter down and the engine rotates and the sprocket rotates. So it's not frozen, it's not locked up, there's not anything in there causing that problem. So we're just gonna have to dig into it. I think it's probably coincidental, just old bike, old parts, who knows. If anybody out there's got any insights in regards to how and why that happened. But we got the carburetors installed, the bike fired right up once we got it wired correctly. No leaking issues, everything's working just fine, fuel delivery. And after all this, the bike did fire up. I did fire it up, but right now we've got some parts on order. Master link, we're gonna have to replace that. We got tear into that. We got to take a whole bunch of shit off to get the chain back on. I suppose I could jack it up and try to feed it through, but we're gonna go ahead and try to see what we can do about it. We'll pull the mud guard loose, lift it up, and get the chain back on, and you got to get back up in there to get the front sprocket attached, the chain on the front sprocket. So we'll feed it around, get it hooked up. Master link should be in next week. Oh gosh, it's been a nightmare. This bike got running real easy. This was a fresh barn find I found at the beginning of the summer. It was non-running, and it turned out to be the gas tank had holes in it, and so we pulled the gas tank off. We put this one on there, but it was rusty on the inside, and so it clogged up the ammo carburetors. We tried to flush it out, but it was actually more rusty on the top in there, and so we had to really clean that out. We soaked it with vinegar, and we put like BBs in it and some nuts and bolts down in there, and shook it and shook it and shook it and rinsed it, and now we're running a couple sets of filters, and this is yesterday. You see my gas is still really clean. It's not turned orange and just colored from rust, but we got it running fairly easy. But then we've had issues with the gas tank leaking. Now I had that Sportster tank up there on it, this one right here, but it's fiberglass, and it's just the fiberglass rotted from the inside out. It just kept leaking, and we tried to fix it. We were trying to save the paint that matched the fenders and everything. The bike had been custom painted by the previous owner, so we were trying to save that, but turns out we couldn't. So of all the other tanks that I got 2 stock tanks and a couple custom tanks and whatnot. This one here seems to fit and seems to work, so we're just gonna run with it for now. I just got to fix that, so we're gonna tap this out, put a bigger bolt in that. We'll rethread that so that holds down. Now the tank sits crooked on there too, so we're gonna have to fix that. See how the tank's a little crooked on there, so we'll fix that in the process. So stay tuned, and we'll see where this project goes, and hopefully we'll get it sorted out. I was so pissed that I got the engine running great. It was running great, idling fine, acceleration, decel, no problems. It was running awesomely. I come around the corner, I was probably doing about 25 mile an hour in second gear, rolled on the throttle a little bit, blah, and then I did a decel. blah, 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 blah. Didn't pop, didn't, nothing, just normal. Made a left-hand turn and a quick right-hand turn, then went to Excel again, and boom, spit the chain off. So, luckily I wasn't out too far from the house, and that's why I just test ride around the neighborhood. I'm not taking it too far until this thing is trustworthy. It's just one problem after another. And so, I'm a little upset about the case, but like I said, that's a non-oil thing, so that can be welded back together. Put that piece back in there and weld it all back together. It sucks that this engine got damaged in that way, but it is what it is. Doesn't affect the performance of the bike. Doesn't affect the oil loss or anything like that. Like I said, it's just that's where the front sprocket lives. So it might spit some oil up through there, slinging it from the oil on the chain. But we're gonna fix it later on, just not right now. What we're going to do is we're going to get the parts, we're going to put the bike back together, we're going to get her running again, and then we're going to see what she's going to do. If the bike's going to run, she's going to be fine, fixing those little problems, then we'll move forward with the project. And if not, might end up being a parts bike. So who knows? We'll see. This investment and the profit that I was going to make off the investment has dwindled considerably in regards to this particular machine. So the 67's running pretty good. Still no problems with it. Got to go through the front forks on it eventually and fix this slider here. It's not quite threaded down as far as the other one, and the front wheel's cocked just slightly. It's just a little bit of handling issues with it, but otherwise, when you're running down the road, she's running fine. This engine runs great, kicks over just fine, starts, runs, performs great. So basically some cosmetics need to be done to this bike, get her looking a little better and run her, and then we'll see what we're going to do with this one. So front forks got to be done on that one. If this bike over here ends up being a big basket case and has to be ported out, then we'll pull the front end off of it and put it on this one, and that'll fix this whole front end problem. So we'll see, but I'd like to keep them both together and running. We'll see. Stay tuned.